Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation. If at any point in today's presentation you have questions or comments, please place them in the chat or Q&A window, and the presenters will address the questions as time allows. This webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording via email within a few business days that you can share with a colleague. Today's presentation is Top 5 Problems Identified by Stratusphere UX. Presenting today will be Chris Walker, Senior Solutions Architect and Subject Matter Expert for Stratusphere North America with Liquidware. But first, we have Jason E. Smith, VP Alliances and Product Marketing with Liquidware, to kick us off and get us started.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, this is a great subject near and dear to my heart. Go back one slide, Chris, if you don't mind, and I'd like to give you a proper introduction. So, not that Kristen didn't, but Chris, I'm so happy to be here with him today. What I wanted to add was a personal flair to it. Chris has been in this business a very long time, and he is one of the foremost subject matter experts on user experience. And even with Liquidware being the experts and the house full of experts and engineers that we have, if there is a challenging issue with one of our customers in performance, guess who gets on the phone, or who we make sure to get on the phone? Chris Walker. So we are truly graced to have him with us today, and we'd like you to ask questions at any time, because you do have one of the foremost experts for user experience for workspaces on with us. So throughout the thing, just put in the chat window your questions. Top 5 issues discovered by Stratusphere UX. We'll enjoy that here in a moment for the main subject of the day. But I want to tell you a little bit about our suite before we get started, just because there may be a few people that don't fully know Liquidware. So we'll spend one slide on that and then we'll jump right to it. But we have the only suite in the industry for digital workspace management. We did call this the Adaptive Workspace Suite, as you see here on the wall next to my desk, but we thought a more proper name was Digital Workspace Management, because that's what the industry tends to call these things these days. But we really do allow you to adapt, and your users to adapt, and their experience to adapt when they log off of one Windows experience to the next. So it could be a physical desktop, a laptop, any version of a virtual DAS type desktop. As long as it's powered by Windows, that experience follows them and adapts as it goes. Do we migrate? It's a side effect. We make sure that the user's data and everything works every time you log on and follows the user from desktop to desktop. And those apps that you've already packaged up using the Flex app, or application portability, will follow that user too. No need to repackage apps. So huge difference between what you might have access to as a free type layering solution. These are apps that are packaged once and follow the user. The user profile, the user persona, follow the user. Even if you have FS Logics and you're managing that in AVD or something, it is locked to a user profile. But if you have Profile Unity, it will follow the user. It'll go from Windows 7 to 10, it'll go to 11, it'll go to Server 22 to 2019, backwards and forwards. User's never down. It eases the migrations, eases the transitions. And then you have Stratusphere UX, standing for user experience, to tell you which of those desktops is better than the other one. The one they logged off of yesterday, is the one they logged on today better than that one? And so it will prove that out and then give you decision support to go into your board meeting with your team and say, hey, look at all this data that I have for user experience. This is the direction we should go. Users are having an overall better experience on X, Y, or Z, right? So we don't get in that business of telling you which of those desktops, because that's going to be different for every single organization, depending on how you use those desktops. What applications are in use on those desktops? What hardware you have? What hardware you subscribe to in the cloud? Did you subscribe to the right tier? And so Stratusphere helps you with all those things. But the entire suite is the only digital workspace management suite that manages all of these things at this higher level than Citrix or VMware or AWS or Nutanix. No matter which of those solutions you have, will continue to manage that user experience, so you can switch from one to the next, one to another. And if something like a pandemic hits, right, and many of our customers did this, they burst scale a lot of their users into a new platform on DAS, and they didn't skip a beat. So they went home on a Friday, and on Monday morning from their work from home office, They were able to light up new Citrix desktops, or maybe it was Amazon desktops. Several of our customers did that. They had zero user downtime, even if the OS versions had changed and everything. Once you're managing all your users with this suite, it makes life much easier, keeps your users productive, makes your job as an administrator or as a C-level exec easier, because you have the right solutions in place to affect dynamic and adaptive change. We work across all those virtual, cloud, and physical desktops. All right, so today, top 5 issues that you can identify with Stratusphere user experience. Solution goes deeper and wider than anything else in this industry. I'll turn it over to Chris. Please do put your questions right there in that window, and we'll get to them one after another. It makes for a far more interesting session. So thank you. Chris, take it away. I'll turn my camera off a bit so we can all focus on the main part of the presentation.
Thanks, Jason. Just one more point on that Stratusphere UX. So as a diagnostic platform, it's more than just Windows. Users with Mac OS, iGel, Tenzig, Stratodesk, all these different platforms, Linux, that we need to monitor. So we are truly monitoring user experience across the enterprise. So no matter whether you're 100 users or 10,000 or 100,000 users in your environment, I have visibility across all of that. Looking at the Wi-Fi statistics at the house, even down to the CPU temperature. So what we did, and we try to do this once a year with our customers, is poll them and work with our customers and all the SEs at Liquidware to determine what are the top 5 issues out there. What are people facing? This, number one, helps us improve our product. How do we get to that resolution quicker, make the interface more intuitive so that we can get that user back up and running and identify that problem? And as we look across each one of the different industries, a lot of the problems are the same. You have different applications, but it's still the same user issues. As banking, might have banks and that people come into every day. Manufacturing, I've got manufacturing lines. Real estate, people floating around in their cars, talking to people, virtual environments. So all these different industries will have different issues depending on their workload and how their people work. So for insurance, those people traveling around, going from site to site to site to site. Healthcare, you're in major facilities, you may have networking issues or things like that. But at the end of the day, a lot of the problems are similar, and we try to boil those up so that our customers are aware what are the top problems facing everybody, and how do you resolve them? So just to review, back in 2019, pre-COVID, everybody running around without masks, everybody having a good time. The issues back in 2019 were a lot different. Number one, everybody complained about user login times. It takes me 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes to log in. Hardware acceleration for accelerating the video drivers and things like that. Memory usage and paging. Last time the machine was rebooted was actually not that big a problem. Remote display. I've got to connect to my Citrix environment in Boise, Idaho to get my connection in. Then in 2020, we did another one. Okay, here comes COVID. All of a sudden, voice over IP and teleconferencing jumped to the very top because the offices were empty. I sent 10,000 people home in my environment. Virtual desktop access, again, that remote display, getting from that user at his house back to the main data center, then the user's home network, what we term the first mile, coined by one of our SEs. This has basically become extremely important, is what is the home network like? How are they using my system? I bought 10,000 laptops, gave them to users, they took them home, and I have lost total control of them. When's the last time they rebooted that? And still, login times has actually, during 2020, dropped to the bottom of the list because users were at home. They really didn't care. I can go click the login button. If it takes 5 minutes, it's not really a big deal. I'm up getting coffee anyway. So now we get into what is it problems or issues in 2022. So number 5, login issues, as we discussed, has dropped to the bottom of the list, but still extremely important and a complex feature to analyze. This training class that I do for a lot of my customers, this is a full one hour, sometimes an hour and a half training class just on one tab in Stratusphere. I'm training the Active Directory team how to diagnose their group policies, login scripts, domain controller response time. Stratusphere tracks this for every user that logs into every system. One of our sales guys like to say for Stratusphere, all users, all machines, all applications, all the time. So every time a user logs in, I'm recording that data in what looks like a boot x-ray from Microsoft. So I get line by line breakdown of all the Active Directory, every GPO, PowerShell script, batch file, everything that ran in there, so I can optimize that login process. Number 4, last time the machine was booted. This is a serious issue with a lot of customers. They don't understand how much this affects how that machine performs. As well, most Windows 10 machines are in quick boot mode, which means if I don't do a reset or a restart on the machine, it's actually when I do a shutdown, it's just really going into a hibernate mode. So Microsoft did that years ago to allow the machines to be able to boot up faster and the users to be able to get in longer. But if you look at in Stratusphere, and we've had a lot of calls on this, hey, your data's not right. And you look at the machine CID boot here in the middle, this is truly the last time that machine was rebooted. And on my community site, my spot check documents, we talk about machine boot. So how often should I do it? Windows machine, desktop, recommend minimum every 2 weeks, just to clean up the memory and fully reset the device. If it's going over 30 days, that means the SCCM or the Microsoft updates are not coming down, which is really bad because that means you have a security issue because the machine is not being patched. But this does seriously affect the performance of that machine. I've done many of analysis with different customers, and they're getting hundreds of calls to the help desk, and they were just having issues with the users, and they would reboot them, and all of a sudden the problem would go away. User would call back in 2 months later with exactly the same issue. So getting those reboot policies and set in place and making sure that the machines are clearly reset will actually improve the performance of the machine and the overall user experience. Remote display protocols. So this is your PC over IP, BLAST, RDP, RFX, ICA. We're adding more, connecting that user back into the data center. So whether they're using an iGel device in the field or a Windows machine or a Mac or an iPad, still connecting that user back into my main data center. So I need to be able to track, what protocol, what's the remote IP address where they're coming from, is that user actually working? Sometimes with contractors, I need to be able to monitor them and say, hey, you've been idle 94%. I know you logged in to my system from 8 to 5, but you're idle 94%. Let's step that up a little bit. This even tracks in certain configurations with Stratusphere, can track the ISP. So I can tell where that user is in the world and see, hey, you're on Comcast Business in Des Moines, Iowa. And then some of my customers have taken that data, pumped it into Power BI, and then used it to monitor the providers. So I know if a provider is having an outage in that particular area, because I've identified their external IP address and their provider inside of Stratusphere. Audio traffic, and we actually don't want to see audio traffic coming across our BLAST protocol because I hope my Microsoft Teams is doing proper offload to the user at their house. So I need to track this. A lot of times I'm actually looking for zero or very small audio traffic to make sure that my Teams or my WebEx or Zoom integrations are properly offloading to the user at their house instead of going through my virtual environment. Image quality, session latency, packet loss, all of these allow me to tune that configuration. PC over IP, I've been doing it for years. BLAST just came out with a really good tuning guide about 1.5 years ago. ICA, honestly, most people don't mess with it. It just sits there and does a perfect job. The latest versions of RFX from Microsoft have really stepped up their game, but still being able to monitor this and determine where's the problem. Okay, now I know I've got latency. And then what a lot of people will do with here is we have a traceroute function. So they'll encapsulate that. They'll turn on traceroute from that end user back to the data center. And using traceroute, I can actually identify where the problem is. Latency just tells me I have a problem. Traceroute tells me where the problem is. Teleconferencing. So we need to connect users all around the world into their environment. And believe it or not, the latency isn't the key thing you should be looking at there. Latency with Teams, 100, 150 milliseconds, no big deal. What is a big deal is the jitter, when the latency goes up and down. So if latency is consistent, say at 100 milliseconds, then you'll have a very good audio and video call. When your latency jumps up and down, 5 milliseconds, 20 milliseconds, up and down, back and forth, that's when you start getting the problems on the audio calls and the echoing and things like that. So look for jitter in your protocol, whether you're using Teams or WebEx or Zoom or Citrix GoToMeeting, it doesn't matter. The audio conference is very sensitive to high jitter configurations. Now, all of this rolls back up to the big thing, the first mile, that user at their house. A lot of my customers aren't bringing people back into the office. They're actually telling them, hey, you can come back in the office if you want to. They're finding that users are being more productive at their house, and sometimes they're actually working longer. So I need to understand more information at the user's house, their Wi-Fi signal strength. How far are they away from the access point? What is their dB loss? So what is the signal strength? What frequency are they running? I'll back up just one. So in the Wi-Fi section, over the past 2 years, I have fixed many VPN problems with customers. They were complaining. One customer was getting ready to spend about another $3 million to switch his VPN provider out because they were having problems with the VPN. Come to find out, a lot of their executives had mesh networks at their house. They were switching from 2.4 to 5 gigahertz and monitoring the event log in Stratusphere for the machine. We were able to see the VPN was actually tearing itself down and rebuilding itself because he changed frequencies, or he moved from one node in his mesh network to another node. So the BSID, that MAC address, actually changed, and the VPN said, something's wrong here. I'm going to rebuild the VPN. So be very careful. Don't replace your VPN until you look at the Wi-Fi statistics at people's houses. CPU temperature. This is a funny one. We've had a lot of customers. They sent people home. They're sitting in their lazy chair with their workstation on top of a pillow. This is bad because what happens here is that machine goes into thermal protection mode. Okay, it doesn't have the CPU is slowed down a lot. And I'm trying to talk to Citrix, so I'm trying to run an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm complaining about the Citrix system or the Amazon or Azure system, when in reality, your CPU is trying to keep itself from catching on fire. By the way, heads up, in 2020 and 2021, there was a manufacturer out there where the heat protection in the BIOS did not engage. The machines were actually catching on fire. We were able to identify the model numbers that were having the issue in Stratusphere based on their CPU and certain make and model and BIOS version, and give them a list of machines and users that they needed to contact to resolve that problem. Also, some other things that we've added because of the work from home, checking on the anti-spyware, the firewall. Is the drive encrypted? Is the firewall running? Did anybody turn it off? What is the risk score? So the risk of that machine in the environment. Are the Windows updates actually being applied? All things that we need to know about these machines in the field, because I may not have a full-time SCCM or other connection to that device to manage it and make sure it's secure. In our most recent version, Jason, yes?
You're talking about work from home and video conferencing, which I think was the previous slide. I was talking to Gartner last week, and it was a two-way inquiry call, about our solutions and everything. And I got to talking about some of the things that we could help with voice over IP and with customers. And they said, well, we just did a survey. The number 3 complaint of virtual desktops and DAS and cloud-based desktops is video conferencing and the performance of it, not being able to diagnose what's happening. And that was the number 3 complaint. So number 1 was it was perceived as expensive. Number 2, which we know that's easily overcome if you argue both OPEX and CAPEX. Number 2, that it was complex. But number 3 was video conferencing. And so it's interesting to see what you're talking about for video conferencing on the previous slide, and these metrics, how you can really truly get in there and diagnose when someone calls the help desk and says, you know, they're having an issue. Otherwise, I mean, you're just guessing at things, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the visibility component, being able to look at the Wi-Fi, how far they are from the access point, what frequency, is it encrypted? You know, they own a public Wi-Fi that's not encrypted. That's extremely dangerous. But you know, we're doing audio, video calls all day long these days. You know, I've traveled actually, let's see, 3 times this year. Last year, 0. So I'm having to do audio, video calls with customers all the time, and it's the lifeblood. It's how we get business done these days. So yeah, that first mile, as Tom phrased that thing, is extremely important to the users and how the corporate America is moving forward these days. All right, so let's just wrap up. Back in 2019, user login was the top, remote display was the bottom. 2020, voice over IP calls, remote display, user logged in moved to the bottom. And here in 2022, the first mile is the #1 issue for customers. So trying to basically figure out what's going on at that first mile, which then affects my teleconferencing, it affects my remote display, my last boot, my user login, all of this actually rolls up into that first mile. The data center is pretty solid and has been for a while. I actually worked with a large company just last month where they were having issues with their internal network. You know, we sent 30,000 people home. The internal network was running fine. Now they're coming back in the office and the internal network is getting overloaded. Guess what? People are still doing audio and video calls inside the internal network. It wasn't designed to handle that traffic. And we were able to help them minimize and track that issue down in the environment. On our community site, I'd like to bring this out, go and look at our Stratusphere spot check methodology. I have updated this recently with the help of Johnny Ma, one of our engineers. We now have Citrix, Horizon, AWS, Azure, Nutanix Frame, and physical machine cheat sheets to help you go through the Stratusphere data. This is very critical. We've updated, added a lot of more information in that system to give you pointers. So instead of looking at 1,500 metrics in Stratusphere, I want to look at these 10. Focus in on these 10, and these 10 will lead you to the resolution based on the problem that the user was having. Now I want to get into any questions that may have come in, Jason or Kristen?
Yeah, we've got this question about laptops in the field. So actually his name's Chris, is asking when there's performance with physical laptops, can you help diagnose those issues as well, other than video?
Yes. So that is a common thing. Most customers will buy Stratusphere for virtual environment, Horizon, Citrix, Amazon, Azure, but we're licensed based on the user. So if that user on that physical machine, that laptop sitting at their house, logs in as Chris Walker at domain, and then logs into my VDI system as Chris Walker at domain, that's one user to us. So I could log into 50 devices and only take up one license. But it is very popular, especially started in 2020 with COVID, that people are actually putting agents on the machines at people's houses. Now, this has to be a company device. You do not have the right to put it onto my personal device. But with that personal device, or even an iGel machine, if they got, say you send them a UD Pocket, so I can monitor, they plug it into their personal machine, it cranks up and runs the iGel OS. I can still get Wi-Fi statistics and all that stuff at their house. Then they remove the UD Pocket, little USB plug-in, and they're back up and running on their personal machine. Good question.
So John is another question. John says that they have moved to certain departments using Stratudesk, and they have heard that Stratudesk has a partnership with us. Can you tell them more about that and how that works and how that could benefit them?
Yeah, Stratudesk is an interesting one. We actually had a customer last year ask us if we could integrate with Stratudesk. It was actually relatively easy because of their architecture. There is a community post on our website, but you need to go to their website to actually look at the actual instructions. The way Stratudesk works is basically you install my personal computer. I would install Stratudesk, and when I start the Stratudesk agent, it actually logs me out, logs me in secure, and then starts the Liquidware agent to report data. And then when I shut down Stratudesk, it actually shuts down the Stratusphere agent on my machine, so it's not monitoring my personal browsing or things like that. It's a pretty unique and creative solution.
Okay, here's another one. How is Stratusphere licensed?
It's licensed by user. Now we do it either named or concurrent. So like if you're in the medical field with multiple shifts or manufacturing with multiple shifts, most of the time a concurrent license is better for you. But at the end of the day, if a user logs in to 10 different machines, as long as it's the same user at the same domain, that's one license. And we can do named or concurrent. We do have some customers who do both. So they have a Stratusphere system that's named for their corporate environment, and then a concurrent one for the retail side, where they're having users come in and out of the system all day long. So we can't combine licenses on a single Stratusphere system. So, I would do one for named, my corporate users, and another one concurrent for my users that come in and out of the facility all the time.
Okay, these are good questions. Tim says that he works for a pharmaceutical company, and they have 5 different use cases where they have virtual desktops and as rolled out, and they have several monitoring solutions, but they want to feed data. They've been using a workspace management monitoring solution, he said. I'm paraphrasing. But they have console overload. So they want to feed the data up into a central reporting mechanism. And so what he found interesting, why he attended today, is our API for Stratusphere. Could you tell him about that more?
Yep, I'm gonna bring up a presentation here real quick too. So yeah, Stratusphere does have a full-blown API, and that gives me the ability to feed data into multiple platforms. So on our community site, you'll see that we've posted multiple templates for Power BI. You can download those templates, point them at your Stratusphere system, and they'll just pop up and run. I've integrated also with Tableau, and we even have ServiceNow, true integration with ServiceNow. So I can pull all that data into my ticketing system and give that to the people on the front lines, my support desk. So Jason Smith calls a support desk. They don't have to ask him the last time he rebooted. They know that he's on a laptop in Boise, Idaho. He's not in Idaho, by the way. They know that he's connected to our Citrix system in Chicago. All of this would be at their fingertips. They don't have to ask Jason, what's the make, model, and serial number of your machine you're sitting in front of right now? All of that data is available in their ticketing system. But the API, we've even done stuff with the API, having it pull data into Excel. So yeah, it's very flexible.
They heard us talking about Stratodesk, no touch, I think is what they call their OS. But this other attendee today, Jim, says that they have 10 Zig devices, and it's asking about the support. And by the way, while you're doing that, maybe we could show them in the console where all the agents are, even though that they're built into some devices, right? Our agent is.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, there's my ServiceNow system, and go into administration.
So yeah, we do have support for 10 Zig. 10 Zig runs on Linux, and several of these endpoints do. And go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Yep. So here's where you would download that. iGel has an agent already built into it. When you download the software, we're already hooked up with Stratudesk. You would download this and embed it into their system. 10 Zig. Some of these are already built in when you actually download their software. But if you need the latest version, like we just came out with 6.6, so you may want this latest version for more metrics. Like, will the machine run Windows 11? You have to upgrade to 6.6 to get that report from that machine.
So these agents run on Linux. You would download them and get them over to the Linux. In the case of IGEL, for example, they have a unified management console, and you'd get that in there. And well, we're already built into that. But if you were to update it, or you needed the standalone agent for some reason, this is where you would grab it and put it on there and install it. We're also looking at, by the way, Dev is working on ZTEM too. It's an emerging Edge OS system, and so hopefully we'll add that soon. What is Letos?
I have no idea.
It's a Linux OS, I think. I forget what it stands for. It's yet another one. So these are vertical use, vertical type devices that have been asked. We've been asked over time, can you help me also know the user experience from that first mile of connectivity to the point of what Chris said. I'm glad you're bringing the ServiceNow kit up, because we actually have a question from Claire, and she's asking about ServiceNow, because this was right after we were talking about the central reporting and API. So I guess that's somewhat related. Can you tell them about ServiceNow support she's asking about?
Yep. So ServiceNow, a lot of customers have ServiceNow. They've got what they call mid-servers deployed in their environment, pulling from SCCM, other middleware tools and things like that. So we built a connector with one of our partners, and that loads on the mid server. That's a standard ServiceNow mid server, and it allows me to talk to the API as well as directly to my Postgres database. So if I'm trying to pull Wi-Fi statistics, relatively simple. Show me all the Wi-Fi for Jason Smith at his house for the last week. No big deal. But if I'm trying to pull, say, machine inventory for 15,000 users, I want to use my connector to my Postgres database. It's just going to be a much more efficient use of the system and much faster.
Okay.
But the base integration kit allows me to get that data in the hands of the people on the front line. The service desk. When is the last time you rebooted that machine? What does your memory look like? How can I make your system better without having to ask that user 1,000 questions? I know the make, model, and serial number of that machine you're sitting in front of.
Another question just came in. Name withheld. Would you say that the average login time for Horizon View? What would you say the average login time for Horizon View desktop should be? What should be the goal?
Yep.
Using
the goal,
FlexApp Pro U. So
well,
let's say they are using our entire suite, and they're bringing in the portable profile, portable apps, and they have Stratusphere that can see the login. What would the average login time be for Horizon View? I believe is what the attendee's asking.
Yep. Now the average, or not, what the industry shoots for is under 30 seconds. So that's what the industry shoots for, is trying to get me under 30 seconds. If you're in a hospital environment or manufacturing, well, really hospitals, law firms, things like that, they are trying to get under 10 seconds. Good luck with that one, by the way. So, but if you're asking specifically about our Profile Unity solution, generally I don't want that splash screen, the Profile Unity splash screen, to be up for more than 15 seconds. Now, people call us all the time and say, hey, my login is slow. And we go and look at their environment, and sure enough, in Stratusphere, their group policies are taking 45 seconds. Profile Unity only ran for 15 seconds, but they're blaming us, when really the group policies, the login scripts, all the other stuff that has to run in Active Directory before Profile Unity even runs is the actual problem.
Yeah.
Stratusphere allows me to find that.
You can shift those over to Profile Unity. 15 seconds sounds like a long time to bring the profile down, but it's not. When you think, we're not just bringing the profile down, we're bringing the user environment over, which is the profile. If we run our profile disk, our FS Logics is running with us, it's run down immediately. But if you're going from OS to OS, we make sure that that change is reflected and the user seamlessly has their settings. And then policy management runs. If you're using restrictions or locking down the desktop in any way, there's a lot more that happens than just the profile. So you can consolidate group policy and preferences and all those things and have Profile Unity run those. Our lookups in Active Directory tend to be much more efficient. Your overall login time is what you want to look at. How much can you bring that down? And so likely when you centralize a lot of the things that you're doing under policy management, under Profile Unity, your overall login time will go down.
Yep.
Same for, here comes a follow-up question. Does Liquidware have benchmarks for reporting that will alert when a certain number of machines experience the same issue at the same time?
Some of our alerting is like that. So like the login, I don't care if 5 people had a bad login, but if say 10 did, I need to know that. So we do have login metrics, CPU, memory, your hard drive is full, things like that. And then what a lot of customers do too is they'll hook it up to ServiceNow or some other platform because I need to monitor Epic. And I want the specific information on hyperspace.exe. We don't have an alarm for that. But using my API, you can pull that out, get it into your service desk system, your ticketing system, and then it can run the alarm and open a ticket.
Okay, good. And then we have the trending that we do reflects that too in Stratusphere, right? So you're looking at reports in green, good, yellow means caution. There might be something about to happen as an issue across many desktops or groups. And then red is like, there's something going on there. You need to fix that right away. So, so in that case, we can help just at a glance, but looking at your reports, but you can do trending analysis and set up alerts based on those, or am I not right?
That's correct. That's correct. Now, but the biggest thing, people think about a diagnostic solution is I need to fix this one person. What I've been training customers on for the past couple of years is how do I flip that upside down? I got 10 calls today with bad audio problems, and I was able to fix it with this, but just by updating this driver and ordering them a different headset. Let me flip my Stratusphere data upside down and find out how many other people are running that same driver and this bad headsets that we know there's an issue with, so I can get them. So instead of waiting on people to call in, I can be proactive because I know this is an issue in the field.
Okay, Ray says they use ControlUp to do remote management and monitoring, but what he's seeing from us is that it looks like we go deeper and we have more metrics because he's run a recent demonstration. Would I use the two of these together? And is his question, or what would you recommend? Am I right in assuming that this could work alongside that?
Yeah. I would say probably 80% of our customers own ControlUp as well. ControlUp, they consider themselves a management plane, right? They don't have a lot of long-term trending and analysis. They don't really collect a login breakdown unless you connect to that machine while the users own it, run a script, and it will do a login breakdown. I collect it every time. I'm a trending and long-term analysis system. So 2 different use cases, and I'd say at least 80% of my customers also own ControlUp because they need to reach out, touch that system, restart a service, clean up a hard drive, things like that. A very powerful tool, and people think we're a competitor. Not really. We do 2 different functions.
Mark says, if Stratusphere UX is running on a remote laptop, can it report the performance data via the internet, or does the device need to connect to the VPN?
Nope.
In order to upload the information. You got it.
Yeah, prior to 2020, I'd only put Stratusphere in the DMZ like maybe one time. Since 2020, all of my customers have what we call a collector. We'll put a collector in the DMZ. So whether that machine is on your VPN or at 30,000 feet in an airplane with Wi-Fi access, that machine can report to Stratusphere. So we got a special configuration. Reach out to your sales account manager, and they'll probably get you in touch with me or one of the other engineers, and we can help you implement Stratusphere in the DMZ. But really, you're just deploying a small 2 CPU, 8 gig of RAM machine called a collector into the DMZ.
Jim's got a good question that might put you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
He said, so these are the top 5 issues you find with Stratusphere, but if you could name a 6th or even a 7th, what would that be?
Well, I've got a whole deck that we've built out recently because a lot of customers were focusing on technical issues. So the next one, and probably I should have higher, is in these days and times, especially with the market having issues and a potential recession coming up. Don't use Stratusphere for just diagnostics. Use it for software asset recovery. I've had many customers actually pay for Stratusphere in as little as 18 months because they went out there and recouped licenses. So non-technical use case like recoup machines that aren't in use. You got all these desktops sitting around that nobody uses anymore. They take their laptop with them everywhere. Recover machines, but software asset recovery literally can pay for Stratusphere in a 6 to 18 months, depending on how your refresh cycle is.
Oh, here's a marketing question. Michael says, will you guys be at VMworld?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, we just signed our contract last week. VMware is coming back, and it's going to be in San Francisco. I think that was the contract they'd already signed, and they're calling it VMware Explore. If I'm wrong, Kristen can correct me. But we just signed an agreement to do that. So if you're attending, stay tuned for more information, and we're very likely going to do a special event, one of the two, first couple of nights. Yeah, Kristen just confirmed VMware Explore that's the new name. So we're looking forward to getting back out on the road. We're doing some things on the road right now with our own events called Liquidware Live. We just did one at Fenway Park week and a half, 2 weeks ago with Boston Red Sox game. I was lucky enough to get to go to that, and IGL Disrupt was actually in Boston the same week. IGL Disrupt's going on today too in Pittsburgh, and we're doing that right now as we speak. We have someone there at that one, and we're also doing Seattle with IGL Disrupt, although I don't know. So IGL Disrupt, those events are on their page. I actually on our page too, on the events page. So if you want to see us sometime soon, you can see that on the page. And Kristen just reminded me we're also doing Cologne coming up in Germany, I guess that is. So looking forward to getting out and meeting folks. Top Desk. Someone said they saw that we just had an announcement with Top Desk too. Do you know about that one, Chris?
Very limited information. That's being run by my UK counterpart. But yes, they have integrated Top Desk with. It's very big in the UK and Europe. So I don't know a huge amount about that. It is using our API, but basically you can get all the data now in Top Desk.
That's like a competitor to ServiceNow, right?
It is. A SaaS-based offering. Yes.
I think they're more well known in Europe. So yes, we support that now. And I think we did a press release on that not long ago.
Yeah, we have true integration. So it's not like you have to download and build your own APIs. Same thing with ServiceNow. It's actually on the ServiceNow store. And I think Top Desk has the same thing. It's on their store as well. True integration with that platform.
Cool. New question from David. David asked, what about the HP Thin Pro devices? Do we support those?
Not right now. HP, that very locked down. We were trying to get them. So if I could ask all my customers, please call your HP counterpart and tell them you need that, because they've got to hear it from you, not as much from us. We talk to them all the time, and we're trying to figure out how it was in there several years ago. Then they removed us, the Cisco WebEx plugin, and several other things that are critical. And I could ask my customers to please call your HP account manager and request that feature.
All right. Same for Wise lately. We had support at Wise at one point, but we found it's difficult to get. They moved a lot of stuff overseas, so we're working to support Wise. We're trying to work with them to get them to give us enough time to support their device.
Yep.
Some of these smaller organizations like IGEL and Stratodesk, ZTIM, Tenzig, they're so eager to work with us because their customers are demanding it, but these bigger organizations, sometimes they move a little slower. So yes, ask and create a little pull on your side, if you will, and that'll help us get them to prioritize the support. We need very little help from them usually. It's just getting somebody to be our liaison to either get us the OS or get the OS on a virtual image so that we can test it. We're doing some of that, like I said, right now with ZTIM and up and coming Edge OS. All right, I think we've gone through most of the questions that I see. Kristen, can you confirm? Do we have any other questions that you've seen?
I think that's it. I think we've answered all of them.
Great. So you recap those resources. Did we recap all those on the previous slide, Chris? Or that one? Yeah. For any time, you can go to our website. We've got evaluation software out there, and you can register. It's a simple form, and you don't have to go through our sales department to get a license key. A license key will be sent out that'll work for a minimum of 15 days. We can extend that for you, and that works for any of the 3 solutions you want to download: Profile Unity, Flex App, or what you saw today, Stratusphere UX. We've got many videos out there, some of them on subjects that you heard about today. ServiceNow videos. We have login. We've done webinars on login breakdown before. We've got videos out there on that, and we've got many white papers out there that you can see more about our solutions. So there's a wealth of resources out there. If you want almost real-time answers to your questions, the Liquidware community, Chris has actually been the major force behind creating that. You can go in there and post questions anytime, and please participate in that if you're a current customer. Chris, you want to tell them a little bit more about the community?
Yeah, the community site covers all of our products. If somebody calls me 4 or 5 times and asks, how do I find this in Stratusphere, I go build an animated GIF. There's one up there for login breakdown, all of my spot check documents. Jack Smith and some of the other SEs on the Pro U side will post recipes for applications, packaging, new portability rules that they've discovered because Chrome came out with a new feature. So, and also on the community site is our official place to post your feature request. So if you want Stratusphere, Profile Unity, or Flex App to do something, go to the community site, and then other people can then vote on that, and our developers watch that. So please use the feature request section up there. Well, our support team also watches the community site. So if they see an issue or somebody posting a problem, they will reach out to that person and try and open a ticket to help them resolve it as well. Also not mentioned on here is our training site, training.liquidware.com. I just posted last week 2 new videos on there, one for ServiceNow and one for Stratusphere navigation. So how to navigate the Stratusphere interface, all the little buttons and things like that. It's a cool little, I think 10 or 15 minute tutorial on just how to navigate the Stratusphere system.
And customer success stories that are out there, those are largely focused on a lot of vertical industries. So if you're in healthcare, you're going to find customer success stories on healthcare. Financial, same thing, and so forth. We have a few on legal that I know of. We have some on manufacturing. We have some on retail. So those are just some of the areas that we have vertical case studies on several of our customers that have enabled us to do those. And so you can see for identifying factors in there that are relatable to you in those. So we encourage you to look at that on our website. And always reach out to us if you'd like for more information. My email is jason.smith@liquidware.com, and Chris's is chris.walker. I'm sure he appreciates me giving his email out.
Yep.
But at Liquidware. And then you can reach us at info or at sales.liquidware.com for any other question that you may have after today's webinar. Kristen, do you have parting thoughts?
Well, I just want to thank you guys today for leading this discussion and Q&A session. For all attendees, again, this webinar is being recorded, and we will send out a link to the recording within a few business days. In the meantime, please reach out with any other questions, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.